Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting alongside us is Fill Me In Phil.
How we doing tonight, boys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we continue our celebration of 2021 with our top 5 favorite scenes of the year.
You know, I want to give a little behind the scenes. One thing that me and Rye share, a hobby we have in common, is this journaling thing that we do, right? And every year we write down all the movies we've seen. And you had this great suggestion, Rye, where you actually also keep track of your favorite scenes in your journal. I did not do that this year, but I am going to be doing it in 2022. So thank you for the suggestion.
It was fun to do because I tried to do it with performances as well, because these are things that we highlight at the end of the year. Some of our favorite scenes, our performances. So throughout the year, I'll make a note. I'll come home and I'll write my thoughts sometimes on a movie. And a side note, hey, remember this at the end of the year, let's talk about this particular scene. So I got some good ones pulled out.
That's great. I mean, to have the forethought to do that as you go throughout the year, it's a wonderful thing to share to the Jawheads.
When we are covering a topic such as this, Matt, we have to have a prolific person, a man of immense criticism, somebody that sees a ton of films. So who do we got joining us shortly?
Mark Dujsik is back in the house. Prolific doesn't begin to describe it. Ryan, what's your guess this year for how many movies Mark saw in 2021?
Oh my goodness. I saw a tweet and I don't think it was real. He had to be joking, but it could be upwards. Hold on to your hats here, Jawheads. It could be upwards of 500 movies. I'm not sure if I read that right. It might be 400. It could possibly be 500.
Dude, even if it's 300, I mean, I get to like 100 movies in a year and I feel damn good about myself.
I'm right with you. I hit 201 yesterday, 201. And I thought, wow, all right, got over that 200 hump. I'm feeling good. Mark puts us to shame.
He puts us to shame. So can't wait to have him back on.
Agree. Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yes, it is the very first Cinemajaw of the new year, which means that it's the first of the month, which means that we have a new theme, which we're going to disclose just a little bit later.
And we have a review for you guys, Matrix Resurrections.
Yes, plus in honor of the year in film 2021, there were a lot of sequels, films that were coming out constantly in the series of a particular, could be a trilogy or who knows now. Everything's about that. So Matt will take Mark on in 2021 sequel movie trivia.
I actually think I feel good about that topic. I might be okay at that. We'll see.
All right. So speaking of sequels and our new theme for January 2022, by the way, Happy New Year, Matt.
Happy New
Year, Jawheads. They're just not going to let the series die. The series is Scream. We are getting a new one in January, and we're looking for something. Always January, February. It's actually hard a lot of times to figure out who to celebrate because it's a sort of a dump of a time for new movies. So we saw Scream and we looked up who's in it and who's directing this new one, and it dawned on us. Let's do Wes Craven, who did the original Scream movies, and we have never really talked about or dug deep into his filmography. So January 2022, we kick it off with Wes Craven. This is one of your favorite directors, man.
I mean, yeah, that's good news to the horror kid in me, but it is an odd choice for January, but whatever, man. Wes Craven, I'm all about it.
We're going there. So we're starting this podcast off with a Wes Craven fact.
Yeah, as Ryan mentioned, it actually has to do with the first Scream, so it's very topical that Ryan was bringing that up. Wes nearly turned down the role to direct the first Scream because the very first scene with Drew Barrymore reminded him too much of the climax sequence of the Last House on the Left film, and he didn't want to do that because it was too close, too similar.
I've never seen the original Last House on the Left, so I'm going to catch up with it. It's January. It's Wes Craven month here on Cinemajaw. Good time to do it, Matt.
I will say this before you watch that movie, Ryan. Just be prepared. Be prepared.
It's very unpleasant.
It's brutal in a whole different way.
I'm prepared for our next guest. I'll tell you that much, Matt. This man, as we mentioned, prolific, sees tons of movies. He's joining us again. I think last year he did best performances with us, but we'll clarify. But he is the man behind markreviews.com, where you can find all his reviews. Mark Dujsik, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Hello, it's good to be back. And yeah, it was performances last year. So
right. Change it up and we do scenes this year. What do you like better, scenes or performances to talk about?
I'm good with either. I like talking about acting because I don't think a lot of people sometimes get into detail on performances in movies, even in reviews. I try to when I can if something really stands out. So I do like talking about them a bit more in detail, but I like scenes. It's fun to go through and realize the weird thing is I have like some really great movies that didn't even make the cut because there were no scenes in a couple of them that stood out. It's like the whole totality of the movie is what counts for me on like that. Like, how do you pick a single performance in Summer of Soul? You can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Summer of Soul won't be appearing on my list. That's a little spoiler for ahead of time.
Same here, man. Like I tried to stay away from my top 10 list as much as I could and highlight some other things. So right off the top, everyone's wondering, what is the number? What did you see this year, Mark?
What's the official number?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure. I believe it is exactly 505.
Wow.
Jesus.
And that's new movies, correct? New
releases from 2021. I think it's exactly 505.
So you dig deep. I mean, we talk about this every year, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. But honestly, you must be kind of like scraping, watching every link that comes your way. 500 movies in a year. That's like what? How many a day? Like a couple a day.
Almost two a day.
Lot. Yeah, it's about what, 1.5 or so a day, 365 days. My math isn't the best, so
somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's why I watch movies and write about them because my math isn't great. But no, it's a lot, and I like to dig into all the foreign films that I can. I love all the independent films I can. Sometimes I don't love digging into some of the cheaper ones, but what can you do? Sometimes you get a hidden gem, and a lot of times, unfortunately, you get something that's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have bothered with that one. Which is, it happens, and I will skip like reviews of those if I feel like I'm just going to be unnecessarily cruel or I don't really have anything to say about it. But yeah, I still think even with reviews, I ended up with like over 450, let's say.
Wow.
For the year.
That is absolutely crazy. But that's how discoveries happen too, right? I mean, a lot of these, and I feel bad because, I mean, we've talked about it briefly and not to go, behind the scenes too much, but a lot of times you get emails from some of these smaller studios or films that do seem interesting. I just don't have the time to watch them all. And I think if somebody, maybe if I run into a Mark Dujsik at a screening, he might tell me, hey, check out this movie. And then it's like, yes, that's how that buzz starts, right? It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of that's one of the things I miss about not having as many screenings to go to altogether because, there were a couple of times I'd see something and I'd ask people like, oh, did you see this? Did you see this? And then kind of push it because I really liked it. And it's something I noticed people hadn't watched. Like by the end of the year, there was this great film from Mexico called Identifying Features. It was in my top 10 of the year. And I noticed on my letterbox, like, me and 4 other people had seen it on my friends list. And I'm friends with, a lot of bigger people.
Yeah, big film critics. Yeah.
And like, you got to see this. You got to see this. And no one really got a chance to see it. And that might have been something I might have pushed to some people if we had been talking about movies that come out around that time. I kind of missed that.
So I always talk about the appropriate time to watch a movie. Like I really like watching early morning on weekends for especially like a slow burn or a documentary. Do you have a particular time when you're watching that many movies? Does it just like, if I have a free 2 hours, I'm watching the movie, or how does it work when you're watching 500 movies in a year?
Sometimes, yeah. Like if I know like it's going to be a really busy week, I will watch something at night, when I have some time before going to bed. I'll put something on, and not right before bed, obviously I'm still awake. But most of the time it's like in the afternoon on a weekend, or after I finished writing for the morning and the day, I'll put something on, before my wife gets home. So I have, that time. But yeah, it's pretty much whenever it's available. What I will tell you is it is not the best idea to watch The Tragedy of Macbeth at midnight, which is the first time I saw The Tragedy of Macbeth, not realizing that Joe Cohen was going to go full bore on the play. And so midnight's not the best time for Shakespeare if you're not ready for that much Shakespeare. But I did watch it again, and I was like, the first time I watched it, I'm like, this is really good. I know this is really good because I love this play. I know this play. And then I had to watch it again just to make sure, like, yeah, okay. They just did the play entirely, and it's really damn good.
That's good stuff. So we're going to put you on the spot here, Mark, because you see so many movies. I wrote down, I just wanted to sort of surprise you here. I wrote down a bunch of questions of best ofs of the year, and I'm just going to throw them at you rapid fire. And out of the 500 movies that you saw, you have to just come up with the answers right away as fast as you can, okay? Matt, keep track of these so we can comment afterwards, okay? Here we go.
Okay, ready.
Okay.
Here we go, Mark.
Okay.
Big year, 500 movies, here we go. Funniest movie of 2021 was?
Red Rocket.
Wow. Scariest movie of the year was?
In the same breath as the documentary about COVID.
The best superhero film was?
Oh, people are going to hate me. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I'm not going to hate you. Best animated film you saw in 2021?
Oh, that's easy. Raya and the Last Dragon.
Ooh. All right. A lot of musicals came out this year. Which was the best?
In the Heights.
Top 10. Wow. And all right. Which film do you predict will win the Best Picture Oscar?
I hate this. I'm thinking West Side Story right now.
Interesting. And I'll leave you with this. Your number one movie of the year is?
This is one I would have loved to have talked to people. I know a lot of people saw it. Sundance. It is 9 days.
All right. I'm one of those that have seen 9 days, so I can comment on this film. I like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, I love it, obviously.
9 days, Matt. You got to catch up with this one.
So wait, so you think for Best Picture, you're thinking West Side Story?
I kind of am. The other one that people are talking about is Belfast, but I don't see Belfast getting, that much support. I think West Side Story is a big crowd pleaser. It's picking up in terms of box office recently, not in big numbers, but it's picking up. And I think when, people in the Academy start watching it, they're going to see, what Spielberg did with it. And I think they're going to love it. And they're going to remember like, oh, we rewarded this movie. 60 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think that's going to hurt it.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know either.
I mentioned when we reviewed it on the show, me and Matt didn't get behind it like some critics actually adored it. We weren't fully on board, but you can see the craft here. Everything about the movie that Spielberg did is extremely impressive, from the cinematography, the costumes, the set designs. All of that is as good as it comes. So I can see it picking up a lot of awards. Does it win Best Picture? I'm not positive.
It is a safe choice though, right?
It is. I'm curious what you guys think will, because I don't have another contender in my head that's like, that's going to win it.
I think right now Belfast has been forced on us to be a Best Picture winner. But I don't think any of the critics or the crowd really got behind it the way I think the studio was hoping we would react that way.
They were hoping like, just this little movie that could, and I don't think it turned out that way. The story's too limited in terms of history. The Troubles is a difficult subject to put in movies, and then to play it that way where it feels like, a kid's version of it, but it's not quite a kid's version of it. I don't think it works in the end, but that's my opinion. But I also just don't see it as that crowd pleasing movie that everybody's going to rally behind come awards time. But that's, I could be completely wrong.
So your favorite superhero movie, if I got this correct, was Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That is correct. And yes, I did see Spider-Man. That was one of the 505 movies I saw. That would be my runner-up. Would be Spider-Man: No Way Home. I did enjoy that, but
4 hours long. I would think that Zack Snyder's Justice League would actually get some, negatives because it's too long when you're trying to squeeze in 500 movies in a year. You're like, Jesus, 4 hours. Come on, guy.
Look, you've set it up at 11 o'clock in the morning and you watch it straight through for 4 hours and you're fine. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're done. It feels like no time has passed at all. I mean, it feels like 4 hours has passed. No, I liked it because I wasn't a fan of Whedon's unofficial cut of Justice League. I wasn't a fan of that. And this one solved the issues that I had with the original theatrical cut of it. And I think Cyborg's a really great character for, superhero movie like this. Flash comes across a bit, more developed. You don't get as much with Aquaman, but it made sense at the time because he would have had his own movie later on. I liked it. I'm not saying it's a great movie. I don't think there were any great superhero movies this year, but I think it's the best.
Oh, come on.
What? I know. I'm sorry.
Spider-Man was a great superhero movie. It was capital G, great superhero movie.
It is definitely one of the good Marvel movies, Marvel Cinematic Universe movies for sure.
All right. Well, I'll take that. I'll take it.
I did like it.
Good stuff. For the jawheads that want to check out all of these reviews, where should we send them online, Mark?
You want to check out markreviewsmovies.com, and that's where I have everything. I have 20 years. It'll be 21 years coming up here of archived reviews since 2001. There's a lot of them there. And yeah, hopefully it's all easy to find on the website. And I will post everything on that homepage as it comes out.
Nice. And we'll have a link in the show notes for the jawheads, as always.
Definitely. Mark is sitting in on this entire jaw. Matt, you mentioned it. Matrix is back.
Yes, indeed, Ryan. After the better part of 2 decades, the green cascading code of the Matrix is making a return to the box office and the home box office. Recastings, agings, resurrections, the characters we last saw in the early aughts are back. Can this return to the rabbit hole be just as deep as the original, or is it too little, too late? Ryan, Mark, and I jacked back into the Matrix to find out.
I remember this.
So deja vu. And yet it's obviously all wrong. Maybe this isn't the story we think it is.
They taught you good. Made you believe their world was all you deserved. But some part of you knew that was a lie. Some part of you remembered what was real.
It's so easy to forget how much noise the Matrix pumps into your head. Something else makes the same kind of noise. War.
Boy, Rye, do I want to tell you how much I loved Matrix Resurrections. Unfortunately, that would be a false simulated reality. Matrix Resurrections makes Matrix 3 look like Lawrence of Arabia. In a year of nostalgic fan service movies, Matrix could have been a Spidey or Ghostbusters like Self-Examination, and I believe that's what Lana Wachowski was sort of going for. Unfortunately, what came out was a tired mess of a movie. The original Matrix was a landmark of special effects and advancement of the action genre, but its sequels were diminishing in return, and Resurrections follows suit. Mr. Tom Anderson, a.k.a. Neo, played by Keanu Reeves, finds himself once again living a humdrum life while he has forgotten that he was once Neo, or at least that's what the movie kind of posits, or perhaps he never was. He still has that familiar feeling that something more real is lurking behind the looking glass of his boring routine. Meanwhile, he pines for a Trinity dead ringer he sees every day at a coffee shop and works on his mental health issues with his therapist, played by Neil Patrick Harris, one of the movie's highlights. The walls of reality become blurred when he starts receiving text messages from a fictional world he created called The Matrix. To call this movie a mess is an insult to messes. Not a single plot thread or character arc is adequately explored, and several are just left unceremoniously dangling without a lick of explanation. The action we do get is fair to poor, and its execution and creativity, it's repetitive, and Neo's Force-like powers, super repetitive, they never develop or change over the course of the film. There are a few highlights. Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves, they still look great, believe it or not. And Neil Patrick Harris actually came to the set to act. Unfortunately, he was the only one. The rest of the cast, the concepts, the scripts, the action, plots, themes, execution, and the milieu of this movie are just crap. I'm not even going to come up with a better adjective. Just total crap. I wanted to love this, but in this reality, the new Matrix film is a total bomb.
Wow. I'm shocked here, Matt. I literally am actually shocked. I hate when you come out so strong against something, or vice versa, the other way, you come out so positive on something. I don't want to go to the extreme and say I absolutely loved this movie, but I really liked it.
Really?
I was on board with this. Absolutely. And the
explain.
All right, the more time I've had to sit with this film, the more I've grown to like it. After it ended, I actually thought to myself, where else could have it went? Where would have the story gone that would have satisfied me? And I don't know. I think this is probably the best option. I mean, you've said it in your review. We're all about nostalgia. And I think the point that Lana Wachowski was trying to make was the fact that she's actually trying to examine, why are we so hooked on nostalgia so much? Why is this such drawn to us constantly? This is what we're craving. We don't want new ideas anymore.
But calling your shit burger, why do you like shit burgers, and feeding it to people is still feeding them a shit burger. So that's where it comes into, like, exactly, was it completely executed the right way? I'm not going to say this is, again, I'm not going one way and saying this is a masterpiece, but I do think the point was made there of saying we're constantly craving the nostalgia factor and we're not getting the new ideas. And when we did the review, we did a Patreon review of the first 3 Matrix movies. I commented about how I watched that documentary on the second disc of Matrix Reloaded, and it talked about exactly that. The fact that Warner Brothers ever gave the Wachowskis $100 million to make the original Matrix is so unheard of nowadays. It just doesn't happen. And unfortunately, we're not getting original stories. I think that was the complete point of Resurrections. I enjoyed it. It was if you watch the movie, Neo never fires a gun. Obviously the first trilogy, heavy on violence. This one clearly was trying to do a story about love between these two characters. It's not necessarily about Neo this time as much as it is about Trinity. I enjoyed it. This, I would say, overall is the second best Matrix film after the original. Mark? Oh my God.
Okay, so I can see both of your points. I'm going to come in here and play reviewer counselor here. Okay, so Rye, I agree with you that it is exploring the ideas of why we keep doing these rehashed things for nostalgia purposes. That entire first 45 minutes or so, I really liked it. I really, really was liking it. I was digging the hell out of it. Like, you are playing with these ideas. You're playing with the very idea of calling back to the original. Why do we need another sequel? Actually calling out Warner Brothers to their face in their own movie and saying, the Warner Brothers wants us to make another Matrix game in this, and we don't really want to do it. Very cool. I dug that. Matt, I see your point though, because it is just after all of that first 45 minutes or so, it just feels like you're doing the same exact thing over again, and not as well as in even, Reloaded, which I liked. Really liked the first Matrix, obviously. I like Reloaded mostly because of the action sequences. I think Revolutions is a mess. But I mean, yeah, all that action, once it goes exactly where it's going to have to go, because if that first 45 minutes feels the way that it feels, if it actually is true, then the first 3 movies don't count, and they're not going to do that. But what if they had? That would have been the daring thing to say, that thing that you love so much? Well, maybe you shouldn't have loved it that much, and here's what the reality of it is. That would have been daring. That would have been different. But once you realize what the truth of the whole thing with the Matrix is, it's like, okay, here we go again, and the action is not as good. I don't think there's a cool gimmick like the bullet time thing in the first movies. They try it. Yeah, it's not as interesting with the moving faster than slow motion, I think, is the idea of there. It's like, that's visually unappealing. It's not clever as bullet time itself. It's just, I don't. And
it's been done. It was done in the X-Men movies by Quicksilver.
That's right. It was done, and it was done much better in those movies. I don't hate it. I think it's a little bit better than Revolutions, because I think Revolutions is just junk. That just doesn't.
I gotta say, guys, listen, it's not even close to Revolutions, because
bite your tongue.
Here's exactly why. It does not pick a lane whatsoever. You guys are giving way too much credit to the first 45 minutes. Where it's self-referential. It talks about video games. What you have to keep in mind is, since the original Matrix, this idea of living in a simulated reality has become somewhat mainstream. There's so much history to draw on, and everything that's happened in video games and everything that's going on with the metaverse, they leave that all on the table. Yeah. Then we get reintroduced to an old enemy, and that's just totally bobbled, completely bobbled. I didn't know if the fat guy was supposed to be his arch nemesis, or the good-looking CEO type partner guy was supposed to be his arch nemesis. I lost track. That whole thing with Smith didn't work. It could have been about their uneasy alliance, but they poorly executed on that. And then the thing with Neil Patrick Harris, and I'm avoiding spoilers, though I don't even know why. He was the best part of the movie, but even that is completely laughable, and it's like, oh really? And then, Ryan, seriously, the power of love, everybody. If that's what you want out of your action movies, then I don't know what to tell you. It was lame. We're gonna hold hands and everyone else is just gonna explode from the power of our love. Blah.
Nice Give me more of that. I like the power of love. I'm all for it.
But also, Fanny Huey was in the news.
That's the power of love.
It's interesting that literally a week earlier, the Spider-Man movie came out, and Matt was on here talking about fan service. I think your comment was, or your movie poster quote when we reviewed it was, you thought Ghostbusters was going to be the fan service movie of the year, but it turned out it was Spider-Man. Wasn't it something along those lines?
Yes, but fan service shouldn't be literally showing your old movie in your new movie. That's
the point. But that's not the point exactly. Is that they were making fun of the fan service. Like, is this what you like? Their point, Lana Wachowski was literally saying, like, this is what Warner Brothers wanted us to do inside the movie. They were saying, what is this? What you guys want? Just to see the same exact rethreads again, or do you guys want original content? And they're commenting on the fact that we are constantly wanting, for some reason, the nostalgia, the rethreads, the more sequels. We love to see all the Spider-Men together. Why? Why is that? That's what they were exploring in this movie. You didn't get that, but that's what they were trying for.
Obvious. It's so obvious that she might as well have clobbered over. It should have been called Matrix. Do you think it's cool to do reboots and rehashes?
So Matt, what did you want then? You wanted Neo in the Matrix again with bullet time again, and Agent Smith rehashing his same character? That's what you wanted?
I wanted that idea to be explored creatively and cleverly, and then have it pay out. But unfortunately, it's not explored cleverly at all. It's ham-fisted, and then what we get in terms of action on the screen is just the actual retread that they're trying to make fun of. You can't have it both ways.
I don't know. I don't think they were going for the idea that we were supposed to. I think by the end we were almost realizing that the action and the whole retelling of the thing was already like, yeah, we get the point. They win. We don't want to see this again, but clearly Matt Kay wants to see it again.
That's not true. That's what you're taking away from this. Mark,
that's what I'm taking away.
You know what I'm
taking away. You want to
I
be plugged back into the Matrix.
No, I wanted something completely different on my end. I wanted something completely different. I said that first 45 minutes hints at something completely different, and then it just feels like it goes right back to the same stuff again with new faces and a different coat of paint, and here's some familiar faces for you to look at and remember this plot line. It's kind of like that, except now this other character is really the important person. It's not different. It's the same. And this is why I failed as a counselor, because you guys are at each other's throats, and I tried to bring you together. And this is why I watch movies and write about them, because I can't be a counselor.
Dude, I will say one last thing about this movie. The aging makeup on Jada Pinkett Smith was absolutely laughable. Terrible. Come on.
I love that. That's the final takeaway. It's true. But yes, that was, and the statue was a little wonky, I think is a good word for it. The
statue of Morpheus.
Yeah, I didn't want to spoil it, but yeah, the statue of that's like, I don't think it matters anymore. As you said, it's been on home box office for a while, so.
Well, we do jaw-dropping moments. Matt, do you have one for us?
Yeah, there was one really good special effect. It was a callback. The helicopter crash. They did this in the first movie where you see the glass ripple, but it looks so much better in 2021. It was the only moment where I was like, wow, that looks cool. How about you?
For me, Mark touched on the scene, and it's actually a good chunk of the movie here. And this is the moment where Neo is with the game designers, what they're calling the game designers, and they're calling out that they're going to make the game, this fourth game of the Matrix, no matter what, if Neo's going to help them or not. And it's definitely clearly a conversation that Warner Brothers had with the Wachowskis, right? We can read right into it. Warner Brothers was going to make Matrix 4 with the Wachowskis or without. It's right on the table. I love from that point all the way through the game designers talking about what we want to see again and what we need. We need a bullet time. And during that is when the Jefferson Airplane White Rabbit song comes on that we saw in the trailer, but we get it throughout the whole thing. I think that's when the film worked at its best. That's when I was like, all right, this is completely clicking for me.
That was a cool scene. I'll give you that.
Yeah, that montage would be my pick too, because you're just like, oh, maybe all of this is what it seems to be, and maybe it's not. It felt a little like, having your head played with in the way that, the Matrix was at its best in that scene and some other ones. So yeah.
Movie poster quote.
Mine is, I wish I could take a red pill and live in a world where the new Matrix movie doesn't suck. How about you, Ryan?
Tough crowd. I went with, this is better than you remember.
How many jaws you giving this stinker?
We're on a 4-jaw scale here, Mark.
Yeah.
I went 3 jaws.
Wow.
Jaws. I am recommending Matrix Resurrections. Jawheads see it. Matt is wrong on this one.
No, I'm not wrong.
Let's go to Mark. Let's go to Mark next, because I know Mark didn't hate it like you did. Mark, 4-jaw scale. What do you give?
I give it 2.
All right, middle of the road. A random moviegoer comes up to you and he says, should I see The Matrix or should I not? Do you say no, or do you recommend?
I would wonder what they thought of the first 3, and then, because also, did you see the first 3? Because if you didn't see the first 3, you're going to be lost. Actually, maybe if you hadn't seen the original 3, that would really blow your mind, because you'd have no idea what the hell's going on.
Could be a masterpiece if you've not seen the other 3, but that's an interesting idea. Matt, how many jaws?
1.5 jaws.
Oh, see, this isn't that big of a divide. It's between a mostly negative and a, slight positive recommendation. It's not that big of a gap. You guys can cross that gap.
I doubt I'll ever talk to Matt again, to be honest, Mark.
It's a clumsy missed opportunity, but was it fun to see Neo and Trinity again? Yes, hell yeah, it was. And Neil Patrick Harris is great. I love that guy. I want to see him more. So it had its ups.
Well, I might even watch it a second time. I enjoyed it that much. I thought, well, this is a good little flick. I was happy to watch it, and I was excited to talk about it. And then Matt came out and poo-pooed on it. But 3 Jaws from Rye the Movie Guy, 2 Jaws from Mark Dujsik, and 1.5 Jaws from our own Matt K. Jawheads, if you see Matrix Resurrections, you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet. We're at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are celebrating 2021 in film, and we're doing it by naming our top 5 favorite scenes of the year. Mark is getting us started. When you see as many movies as you have, was it tough to narrow down just 5 scenes, Mark?
I have a pretty sizable list and including some stuff that I had to take off. So yeah, it was a little difficult to nail them down. I'm hoping this is close enough to a finalized list that I don't need to, pull an audible halfway through or something. But I think I'm good.
What do you got sitting at number 5?
At number 5, I have a scene that I'm calling "Feel the Music" from Coda.
Yes.
Everybody knows what scene I'm talking about here if you've seen this. This is a Apple TV Plus original film. Really, really good. It just missed out on making my top 10 of the years and somewhere in there. But in this scene, it's about Ruby, played by Emilia Jones, who is the hearing child of hearing impaired parents and a brother. And she is an inspiring singer, and she's starting this. The whole film is about her practicing for this concert. And at some point you realize, because it's pretty clear, her parents and her family aren't going to be able to hear how she's doing, because the entire question is she going to go off to become a singer, or is she going to stay home and work with the family to help them out? There's this great scene, though, where they figure out a way for the father to understand how talented his daughter is. And I don't want to completely ruin it, but the title of the scene, as I called it, will probably give you a sense of it. But it is just heart-filling. It's warm. It's just a great scene and a really good film that, if you haven't seen it, you should check up with. So that's Coda, and I'm calling it "Feel the Music."
Like it. Strong start to our top 5s.
Absolutely. I'm a big champion of this film, Mark. It's number 1 on my list for the year. I just found it so delightful. Yeah. All right. I'm going to the absolute other extreme here. There's a filmmaker who I once maligned here on the show and was corrected and gave actual thoughts and credence to the correction that was given to me. And I thought about it a lot. And I'm saying that James Wan is one of the best horror directors of today. And he gave us a movie that I think was intentionally tongue-in-cheek in 2021 called Malignant. But there is a scene that is absolutely undeniably shocking and I'm calling it the reveal, when we finally learn the truth about what is going on with this twin and its origin. And when we finally see this home movie and they reveal the body horror of this scene, is truly shocking. I haven't experienced something quite that strong, maybe since Cronenberg's Fly. It was that good. I'm not saying the rest of the movie is that good, although I had a lot of fun with it, but that was a cool scene that just stuck right out of my mind.
This was an honorable mention for me, written down here. I love this particular scene. And yes, when you first see exactly what the reveal is, and then there's this action sequence that takes place in the hospital that is just bonkers. I mean, it's literally bonkers.
Way out there.
And I've rewatched it since we've reviewed it on the show, and I'm just yeah, I love that he went there, and it's a wild scene. It plays really well. You a fan of this one, Mark?
I'm not a fan of the movie, but Yeah, but one of those kind of like the reverse of the Matrix is that last 15 minutes. That's where the movie picks up and kicks in, and you're like, where was this movie the entire time? But yeah, that was a. I mean, I mean, I'm not going to be one of those people. Except right now, I am. I did see that one coming. But I mean, it's
well,
still,
I think we all saw it coming.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's still cool though.
It didn't prepare you for what the actual on-screen look of the thing
true.
was.
Yeah, that's true. I was not expecting that.
So for my number 5, I tried to come up with something on my list where it was an opening moment, since this is the opening of my top 5 list. So I went opening, and for my number 1...
So meta of you.
Right. And for my number 1 pick, I went with my favorite closing moment in a movie. So all of the movies that I saw, not quite as many as Mark, but of all the movies I saw, my favorite opening this year in 2021 came from James Bond, No Time to Die.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I mentioned it when we reviewed it back a couple months ago, Matt. It opens with a horror movie vibe. We have a masked man approaching a house with a woman and her child. And they're alone in this house and in the middle of the woods. And he breaks in. And again, people may not have seen this movie, even though it seems most people have already caught up with James Bond. And he breaks into the house, and the little girl is alone from her mom. And for the first, I think I timed it out when I rewatched the scene. It's probably about a 8-minute scene. It literally plays out like you want to see a scary movie in October.
Yep.
And I wish the rest of the movie played out as good as this opening scene, because wasn't a huge fan of No Time to Die, but I really thought the first 8 to 10 minutes of this movie was extremely effective. Mark?
Yeah, it was different for a James Bond movie for sure. What I liked about No Time to Die, at least that long opening, is that it gives you that feeling of not being sure of what's going on, and you kind of for the rest of the movie, you're not sure exactly what's going to happen by the end. And then to give you that, but also to give you the traditional, here's James Bond doing a lot of action in a, really cool place. So that was nice. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting opening scene for a Bond movie for sure.
I loved it. I think you're spot on, right? I don't know if this movie's getting enough love. Well, we'll see. I think it'll get a few looks at the end of the year here.
Mark, into our 4s, what do you got sitting there?
My number 4 is from In the Heights, the best musical of the year, as we talked about earlier for me. And this one is Abuela Claudia's Life and Song. So there's, so the whole film is about the immigrant experience and what it's like in this neighborhood. And there's a character played by Olga Merediz, who's like basically the local abuela, the local grandmother to everybody who's there, because she's been there forever. And there's a scene when the climactic blackout hits where she is lying in bed and her entire life goes before her eyes, and she's weighing the pros and cons of everything that she's been through from immigrating to the United States, and what that meant for her and for her family, and what the experience of coming to the United States and the way that people reacted to her, and trying to just balance, like, did everything that I go through, was that worth it? And it's done entirely through song and through this sort of representational dance on a subway. It's an amazing sequence, and Merediz is just fantastic in it. She's a scene stealer just for that one musical number. And I think it just encapsulates everything that the film is going for just in that one sequence about, whether or not, looking for a new life somewhere is better than the old life you left behind. And what did you lose? What did you gain? And is it worth it? And I think it's a great little scene, and it's, I think it's a fantastic film too, but yeah, that scene really stuck out for me.
I agree. I mean, that was one of the more beautiful moments, because you get these flashbacks, and she's dancing through the subways, and you see everybody in the period costumes and stuff. It's beautiful. There's another standout scene in that film. I don't know if it's on somebody else's list.
It might be.
All right,
it might
cool.
be.
I won't.
There's
I won't
a couple
mention
of
any
great
more
ones in there.
Oh, there is. One is going to come up on my list.
Cool.
All right. Okay. Then that's all I have to say about that. All right. My number 4. I am going with what the scene I am just calling fan service from Ghostbusters Afterlife. I didn't think that they were going to go there. And once they did, I didn't think it was going to make me feel anything. But damn it, it did. It just did. I don't want to spoil it for like the 5 people that haven't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I'm just going to say it in kind of code. When we see what's up with Egon at the end of the movie and how he fits into the mix there in that climax. Dude, that could have been so botched. That could have been so stupid and ham-fisted and fell flat on its face, especially when you're dealing with the real Harold Ramis, who's a legend. But I think they handled it, and it gave me chills, and the hairs on my arms stood up. And it, as a Ghostbusters fan, it brought me back to my childhood. And damn it, that's what the movies is about: a transportive experience that really made me forget about everything that was going outside the theater. And I appreciated the hell out of it. What did you think, guys?
Well, I remember I was watching this at the screening. I happened to be sitting next to Lana Wachowski, and she turned to me and she's like, "This is exactly what we don't want to do with Matrix Resurrections."
Well, yeah, she successfully didn't do that. Made me care.
I mean, literally, Resurrections. She doesn't want to do this, and I thought, wow, fantastic, Lana. Lest anyone think that was a true story. But no, Matt, I remember talking to him afterwards, and it was one of those where Matt is actually turning away from me because he's got tears coming down his cheeks. He's so moved by the ending scene. I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan. I appreciated the movie. It didn't do anything like it did for Matt. Mark, I don't know, where do you sit with the Ghostbusters?
But I kind of like the first movie, and then it's like, all right. And I'm not huge on Afterlife, and I will say that, oh man, yeah, we're not spoiling it. We're not spoiling it. I think that those tactics are questionable. I think the effect of the scene, though, ultimately is closer to what Matt and how he describes it. I think the balance of being respectful in a completely disrespectful tactic kind of creates this balance, if that makes any sense. Like
it does.
Okay. And like, yeah, so I get it. And I was like, just because you can see it on everybody's faces, like, even though that isn't there, you can tell like they know what's happening, and you kind of feel it, and you feel it more through the other people on screen than you do through the effect. I don't think I spoiled it. I don't think I spoiled it.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
And I think that the effect is pretty darn good too, and that helps sell it.
Yeah.
It was well executed.
It's not like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One or anything like that.
Right. Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, for my number 4, I go completely different. We're not getting emotional on mine. We're going badass with mine at number 4. There were a lot of great fight scenes throughout the year, and my favorite by far came out early in the year. Geez, I think this, can we throw it in the fish tank? Because this was one of the first movies that opened up back in the theaters when this came out exactly, Phil. I'm interested. Maybe April. The movie was Nobody with Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah.
And I love this bus scene. That's what I'm calling this one, the bus scene in Nobody. And we have Bob Odenkirk playing a sheepish suburban dad who's just had enough. And their family has experienced a break-in, and he needs to get something out of his system. And he goes to this bus, and there's some troublemakers on the bus, and a fight scene ensues that is so fantastic because it's not about the pain that they're trying to inflict as much as absorb. And we very seldom see that, where all the characters are getting beat up, Bob Odenkirk included. At one point, he gets thrown out of the bus and has the courage to stand back up and go back in for more punishment. And he's giving out his own punishment at the same time. But I think that's what made the film, the scene and the film in general so special. Was it wasn't just about one guy being able to just beat everybody up a la John Wick. It was about how this guy, almost like the Rocky Balboa of action heroes, he could take a beating like nobody's business, but he's still going to give everybody else a beating also. And he was just not going to quit. I love the bus scene. Matt?
That is a special fight scene. Bob Odenkirk trained for months for that role. And who'd have thought, he's kind of like a nebbish comedian. We know probably best from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Of course, Mr. Show as well prior to that. But he's, a bit of a behind the scenes comedian writer type. And here he comes as an action hero. It was a tough sell, but boy, oh boy, did that scene make me a believer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I think, Ryan, you nailed why it works, is because he does get his ass handed to him to a certain degree in that sequence. And it makes that's important when you have this sort of character who's just ordinary slob who turns out to be, badass. It's like if you feel like he's just straight up badass, can beat up everybody, kill everybody, it's just eventually it just becomes repetitive. But seeing him get his ass kicked on that bus too is part of the reason why it works as well as it does, because there are actual legitimate stakes to that and everything else that follows it. Because that this guy can lay on a beating, but is he going to be able to take all of that's coming at him as this movie goes? And yeah, Odenkirk's great in that and completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's streaming on one of the major services. Throw that in the fish tank also, Phil, when you look up when it came out. Into our threes we go. Mark, what do you got sitting there?
My number 3 is another musical somehow. I don't know what happened this year.
There were a lot of them. It seemed like 1 out of every 5 films was a musical.
It's cool. It's making it come. Another reason why West Side Story might win Best Picture. Speaking of West Side Story, the prologue from West Side Story is my number 3, because that's the moment that I realized, holy crap, Steven Spielberg did it. And I'm not a huge fan of the original West Side Story, the original movie of West Side Story. I think the play has some inherent problems to it. I think those become clearer as this goes. The romance isn't that great. The lead characters aren't that interesting. The screenplay fleshes them out a bit in this version, which is very much appreciated. So the love story kind of works a little bit better than you'd expect. But you cannot deny from the very first moment with the prologue, with the Jets going around town, snapping their fingers and dancing, it somehow works because they feel like a tough gang that just happened to occasionally pull off a balletic movement as they're strolling down the street. And the way that Spielberg, and I don't know who the choreographer is off the top of my head, but the choreographer, they make those little flourishes of dance feel tough. It's not subtle, but the way that it's staged makes it work, because you actually feel like these guys are tough goons who are going around beating up people in town that they don't like, and that they are intimidating. And you don't get that sense in the original movie, but you get it in this one. And then you have Leonard Bernstein's music, which is just fantastic. I think I was humming that for a couple days afterwards, just the prologue, because it's a great piece of music. And you can tell Spielberg knows how to move the camera with these characters as they do the dances, and that becomes even clearer in other scenes. I also love the Cool number. That's another great one, the way they moved it and changed the context of that scene. So right from the start that Spielberg's got his stuff in order here, and it's really, really good.
It's shocking, and we mentioned this when we talked about it when the film came out, that this was Spielberg's first directed musical. It doesn't feel that way at all. And we shouldn't be shocked by that. The guy's a master when it comes to directing films. But it really did feel like, well, this is what he does. He makes musicals. And this was his first musical. He's just that prolific that he can just, all right, I'm going to make a musical. And damn it, he's going to make it just about as good as anybody possibly could. Of course he is. He's Spielberg.
Yeah, of course. You think about his action sequences in anything, and they're like little comic beats and musical cues and like, like I'm thinking like Minority Report, there's that whole thing on the outside that feels a bit like not a musical number, but there's like comedy bits in there that you don't expect. He knows his stuff, obviously. But yeah, it makes complete sense that he would nail his first musical, and I hope he does a couple more. Spielberg Fiddler, when please.
No arguments here, man. Absolutely. Totally. All right, that swings it to my number 3. Ryan, I think you were on the right track with No Time to Die, and I am a fan of the opening sequence. It is unusual for a Bond film, unusual for an action film to have such a dark horror-like opening. But the moment that scintillated all of us and set us on the edges of our seat was the 5 to 10 minutes that they spend in Cuba when we meet Agent Paloma, who is just absolutely magnetic. The chemistry between Paloma and Bond is the stuff that the James Bond movies are built on without being too gross. You know what I'm talking about? Like some of the old Bond movies are a little exploitative. This wasn't that. And she has her moment to shine just right alongside Daniel Craig. And that action sequence is like, whoa, I wasn't expecting it. Came out of left field. I fell in love with Paloma right away. I don't know how they're going to make another Bond movie without her in it. At least the next
actress
couple.
we're talking about is Anna
de Armas.
Yes, that's who we're talking about here, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent scene. She could almost be the next James Bond.
I agree. And I don't think I'm alone on that. Like, it may just happen. We'll see.
Maybe a different character. Obviously, she'd be James Bond, Jane Bond, whatever they go.
Right.
She plays,
We'll
she plays it a bit differently than James Bond. But that's why
I did like that scene. Yeah.
It was electrifying.
Yep.
My number 3, back to the musical. We can't get away from it here, Mark, and it is from In the Heights. Didn't make my top 10. I'm not as high on it as others, but man, there were some moments of pure magic. And I do think when we look back at when we saw this, it was a joy to go back into the theaters. This is one of the first press screenings we had where it was exciting to be in the theater again. Wow, what a time it was. I'm going with the pool scene in The Heights.
Yeah.
And again, this is another one that I've actually rewatched this since I've seen it. I've probably have rewatched it maybe 5 times, not joking. I think it's the most ambitious scene in the movie. The entire neighborhood goes to the pool. It's like a really hot day and they go to the pool. And at the same time, this lottery is going to be drawn. And the song that they're singing is called 96,000, which is what people would do with the $96,000 that they would win. And I was looking at it. I wrote down some stats here. The scene's nearly 6 minutes. It features over 500 extras, many of whom were dancers busting out ballet, hip-hop, synchronized swimming, and bone-breaking moves at Washington Heights' historic High Bridge Pool. And I think that's all you need to say. 500 extras. When you're watching this take place nowadays, it seems all these movies got to do everything with green screen and visual effects. And there was something magical about watching this many people and this crane shot, especially at the end as it drew back and you saw how many people were splashing around in the pool, singing. The energy literally jumped off the screen into the audience and you just wanted to cheer after the scene. It was applause worthy all the way around. I loved the pool scene. I can't believe this was not on Mark's list, but
yeah, I mean,
he likes an old lady singing.
I like the old lady contemplating what life meant. What can I say? The other one, the pool scene's great. The one that clicked in my head is I thought maybe it could be on your list is them dancing along the side of the building.
Right.
Yeah. Very
great.
Cool.
That's a great scene. That's like that Fred Astaire number where he dances on the walls and the ceiling, but kicked up to 11. It's in terms of the effect,
no
of
doubt.
it, not the.
I mean, so the 98,000 or is it 96,000?
96,000.
So it feels like a return to the old movies, right? Like, plus I think you're right, Ryan, about the timing of when we saw this movie. All of us were a little tired of the isolation of quarantine, and then to just see all these people together, like in this mass at this pool, is such a communal event. I fed on that energy, and it penetrated me into my soul. It felt good. It was great.
In the Heights, if you're keeping score, has come up twice on our favorite scenes of the year. It's streaming on HBO Max, so I mean, I don't know what people are missing this out for. We are almost through our list, but we're saving our 2 as we go through here. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we got our top 2 favorite scenes going round robin here. Favorite 2 of 2021. Plus, Matt is taking Mark on in sequel movie trivia, and I'm talking sequels from 2021. So stick with us, Jawheads.
Jawheads, we know you're looking for even more ways to enjoy fun movie discussions with us here at Cinemajaw, and we got you covered. Check out our YouTube channel. In 2022, we're going to be doing more animations, more reviews. We're going to be getting on the YouTubes even more than we have in the past. So be there or be square. Square is in a tube, as in YouTube. Follow us there, and while you're at it, please click subscribe. It helps us out a ton. It helps build the channel and get even more people involved with movie discussions, which is a great thing. Support film, support Cinemajaw, follow us on YouTube, and enjoy.
Hey, Jawheads. Wes Craven Month is officially started. We hope you're as stoked as we are to celebrate this horror master. We got a lot of great stuff coming up to honor Freddy Krueger's dad himself this month, including a retro review of 1977's The Hills Have Eyes. Now, seeing as this came out 44 years ago, before our review comes out, if you need a refresher on the movie, we just wanted to let you know it is streaming on Hoopla, AMC+, Tubi with ads, Canopy, Shudder, and Amazon Prime. We hope you guys can check it out, and we're really excited to share this review with you guys.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Mark Dujsik from MarkReviewsMovies.com. Mark, how many movies do you watch for enjoyment without having to review? Do you go back and you watch a movie just to hang out and watch a movie, or family comes over and you're like, yes, let's just put on a flick? Do you have time for that?
When family comes over, no. And it was actually weird because over Christmas, my sister put on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory because my mom had never seen it somehow.
The Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp?
Yeah, the Gene Wilder one. She had never seen it somehow.
Very worth seeing.
Oh, yeah. But it was weird because I was like, I don't really feel like a movie right now. But I still watched it because once the movie starts, I do kind of get sucked in, especially one as great as that one. But yeah, I'll sit down and watch something. I don't log it on Letterboxd, but because if I did, people would think I was really just out of it. But yeah, I do try to catch up on stuff that I haven't seen before. And I will occasionally, rewatch something from that year or something that I haven't seen in a long time. And I'll watch it for enjoyment. Definitely.
So I play a game. There's probably other critics out there that play the same game. It's a Letterboxd Mark Dujsik game that I made up where if I watch the movie and then I review it and log it on Letterboxd, if Mark Dujsik hasn't seen the movie, I have to chug a whole bottle of Jägermeister.
And
it hasn't happened yet.
There we go. I was waiting for it. So you just have a bottle of Jägermeister sitting in.
It's just ready to go.
It's in the freezer. Yeah.
One of these days it's going to happen.
I mean, there's some time, I get some weird indie link and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to log it in. They're like, one other user on Letterboxd has seen this movie. I'm like, don't even tell me. Yeah, it's Mark Dujsik.
Oh.
So we'll get to that Jaeger sooner or later. But Jawheads, do check out MarkReviewsMovies.com for all his reviews all throughout the year. Before we get to our top 2 picks and play some trivia, we got to open up the fish tank and also find out what Phil's favorite scene of the year was. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello, how we doing this week, boys? Happy New Year. I don't know if we said that at the top. Officially, this is the first draw of 2022. Very stoked. We're excited to be closing out 2021. I think I speak for all of us. I will say you guys are making it easy on me, and I hope that that's your New Year's resolution, is to allow me to relax more inside the fish tank. There's only one question in here. It is a 2-parter, but it was our nobody question. When did it come out? And is it streaming anywhere since release? It came out March 26th, 2021.
Wow.
Very
Yeah.
early. Like crazy to think there's been like 80 world catastrophes since then. It's
Sure, yeah.
incredible to think that this movie came out this year. And unfortunately, it is not included in any streaming subscription services. Just like everything else, though, you can always find it for rent on Apple TV, YouTube, Amazon, probably in a Redbox too, I'm sure.
That's one
check
that
it
I would,
out.
yeah, I would say it's very worth checking out. It's an unusual movie.
I always felt bad for the movies that came out, and part of the reason why I was asking when that came out was it was such a weird time that nobody was really ready to go back to the theater.
Yep.
And it was a quality film, you know? And I thought, like, man, if that would have came out in the summer, it probably would have did at least double, maybe triple the box office it did for coming out in March, right?
It would have been a sleeper hit. I agree. If things were a little bit more open and COVID things, were down, if it was in one of the troughs and not one of the peaks, I think a lot more people would have seen it.
Well, it's a weird time too, because I think most of us had probably had our first shot, but you still, like, what good is that? You need two. At that time, you needed two in 2 weeks afterwards. So,
Phil, we're talking our favorite scenes of the year. Do you have one other than something from Dragon Slayer?
well, Dragon Slayer isn't a thing. I'm sure it is a thing, but here's what I'll say. I had to think very hard at this caveat, but I did find a suitable replacement, and it is with Matt Kay's approval. I've been blessed. I received his blessing to use an No Way Home scene, and what I'm picking is the rescue scene. I don't know what we would be calling, like, what the official name is.
I actually came up with a name because this is one of my honorable mentions. It's the amazing rescue of MJ.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, we already
Look at how
spoiled
proud
it. Why,
Matt
yeah,
is
why,
that he came up with this name.
It's incredible. It's like, it's so
No.
I thought it was amazing.
emotionally.
It's amazing.
Yes, it's amazing. It is so emotionally impactful for like 15, 20 seconds that, yeah, just like Matt was saying in the Matrix review, like it was a correction and like a redemption arc. Ryan, I think, had said that on the last episode as well. It's really incredibly well done. I don't think anyone here would. I hope no one here would disagree with that.
Oh, it's a great little
Definitely
moment.
I'd look like a
highlight.
real chump if they did.
Quality
Yeah.
moment from a quality film for sure.
100. I think I said it all when I really meant that. I don't get choked up at these superhero movies the way Matt clearly does. And it was the only time I had like a lump in my throat that I can remember at a superhero film. So it worked. All right. Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in here this week.
All right. Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
We are continuing on with our top 5 favorite scenes of the year. We are at our number 2s. Mark, what do you got sitting there?
Number 2, I have a change in the tone a little bit from a documentary called Procession. Right, I'm sure you saw this one at the film festival.
I have not,
What?
believe it or not.
Oh, I swear
missed this
I
one
have
as well.
not.
Oh, it's on
I got the screener here.
It's
so
on Netflix. Great film. It's about 6 men who are survivors of childhood sex abuse by priests within the Catholic Church in their respective dioceses. They are trying to go through their trauma to come to some sort of catharsis about it by making movies about their experiences in whatever way they see fit. There is this, I will not talk too much about it because you haven't seen it, and I have a feeling some other people haven't seen it who are listening, but you should definitely see it. It's on Netflix. It's called Procession, but the scene I'm talking about is called Can You Play It Angry? And it's within this whole thing of shooting one of the scenes that a pair of them have written, and they're directing this scene about this experience within a confessional booth. And one of the other survivors is playing a priest, and he notices something within the confessional booth that makes it really easy for him to play that scene very, very angry. And just the way that whole sequence encapsulates the feelings of trauma and anger and just everything. But also there's this fantastic sense throughout the entire film of all of them working together to help each other through the experience of going through these scenes, through their own thing, through their own past, and also just trying to figure out a way to help each other through all of it. And that comes through in that scene too. And it's just fantastic scene in a really difficult but very, very, very rewarding film. Procession. It's on Netflix. Watch it as soon as you can.
I'm going to check that one out for sure. I love documentaries.
That was number 4 on my 10 best list of the year. Was that one? So
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
highest
see
documentary.
Summer Soul.
You had on
Summer
your
Soul
list?
was higher, but this was
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Over to my number 2. This is a movie that might be one of the most polarizing films of the year. And I think most people probably did not like it. And not because it's not well made or well acted. The craft is there. It's just very challenging. And it is a musical. And I'm talking about Annette. And the scene that I would like to highlight from Annette is the duet at the end. Wow.
What a moment.
If you make it there, if you... And I talked to one of our, you know what? I'm not going to name names. Let's just say I talked to a few of our critic friends, more than one, who gave up on Annette. And I don't blame them. I honestly don't blame them. But if you make it to the end of this movie, there is a reward. It does pay out because the ending is one of the most haunting endings since the first time you watched the Blair Witch Project. And wow, did it devastate me. The singing, the duet, like everything about it. And Adam Driver's not a great singer, but this little girl that they got to play Annette was fantastic. She's only got like 2, 3, 5 minutes on screen and she melts it down. Just devastating and so totally worth sitting through that very, very challenging movie for. That's what I have to say.
I was a fan of Annette. I know it's exactly what you said. It's polarizing, but I thought there were actually 2, 3 great scenes. The one that you just highlighted there, fantastic, and that's such a complicated scene too. You know, it's a complex moment. There's a lot of emotion going on there, but even in the middle, I love the conductor scene when. I always butcher that actor's name. He's from one of the television shows. And he plays the conductor.
Yeah,
do you know who it is, Marco? I'm thinking of
Simon. Simon Helberg.
Yes, Simon Helberg.
He is really good in a movie I really dislike, which is Annette. I really dislike Annette.
Oh, you did.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
I know.
So I love that. I love that scene, and I also love the way this movie opens with that wonderful number.
That was fun.
Can we now start? That was extremely fun. So I think between those 3, I think are all highlights of a very polarizing movie.
Yeah, I'm curious. Let's explore real quick, Mark. Yeah. Why do you hate this movie?
Songs are pretty bad, except for I think the 3 we listed, and one of those I don't even think the Simon Helberg number is a song. I think that's just a spoken word monologue for the most part, if I remember right. The opening's fun, and then I couldn't stand the songs. I couldn't. It's like we love each other so much. The lyrics to the entire song are "We love each other so much." I couldn't take it. It was painful.
I loved it.
I was not a fan of it at all. I didn't think the story had much to say about fame and celebrity in any thoughtful or provoking way. The artifice of it, and I know it's a musical, and so that sounds dumb, but I mean the straight up artifice of it with the baby Annette puppet. It's just it was too much, and it didn't do anything for me. Yeah. I know.
The big question is, if you were a paying customer, would you go see Adam Driver stand-up comedy? That's what I want to know.
No. I've been watching some really interesting comedians recently, and some of them are a lot worse than anything he did. And at least kind of trying to make jokes. So that was, I did not care for Annette.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I know why. I know what you mean. And it's totally fine.
I know.
Totally fine.
Everyone who have said that to is like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get why you didn't like it. I still loved it. This is their response, but you know.
You know, there's movies that like you love and you're offended when people don't love them. I think everybody's agrees, and that's fine. You didn't like it. That's fine. We understand.
Yeah. I don't get offended when people don't love the stuff I love, because I love some weird things sometimes in terms of movies.
On to my number 2, and a film that did not make my top 10, maybe top 25. I don't know. I haven't ranked it out all the way to 25, but probably be somewhere around that number. But man, did I love the way this film ended. It is The Duel from The Last Duel. And it's a film that caught me off guard. I know Ridley Scott came out talking about millennials and their cell phones are the reason why this movie didn't do so well. But I don't give a damn why it didn't do so well. I'm here to tell you why I liked it so much. And I hope that my love of this particular scene helps maybe some people catch this one on demand or rent it somewhere. But the scene is The Last Duel. The film is set up for this moment. And this is the idea that two people have said one thing. This person says one thing, the other person has said another. And it deals with Adam Driver and Matt Damon's character. Matt Damon feels that Adam Driver has raped his wife. And we see the story unfold into The Last Duel through 3 different storylines of exactly what happened. And it leads to this big moment. And it was, in fact, the last duel that took place in France of a judicial duel. This was actually meant to say, hey, at the time, whoever wins the duel actually was right because God said. And it's been a long time that a movie has been built up to a moment like that. And I actually didn't have an inkling on who was going to win. It felt like I was watching a boxing match or a sporting event.
Yeah.
I like sat up. I sat up in my chair like, what the hell is going to happen here? This is incredible. And the scene is actually brutal, but exciting. And it makes you excited just to see the filmmaking, but actually see the action on screen of where this is going to go. I was along for the entire ride of the last 20 minutes of The Last Duel. Big fan of the movie in general and of the last scene. Mark, I know you've seen this one.
Yeah, I liked it. And yeah, that last duel is it's a great sequence. Ridley Scott can still, we're talking about Spielberg being able to direct a musical out of nowhere, seemingly. But yeah, Ridley Scott can still direct the hell out of an action sequence. And yeah, it does. You have no clue what's going to happen. It is brutal. You understand everything that's happening. You understand the stakes of it. The great thing is the way that the person who's not participating in the duel, but whose entire actual fate is determined by it, is sitting there too. And it's really, really great sequence. Yep.
It is. Yes. The Last Duel, available to rent. If you missed it in the theaters, do check it out, Jawheads. My number 2 favorite scene. It leaves us with our favorite scenes of 2021. I don't think Annette's going to be listed here.
Probably not.
Mark, sorry. What do you got at number 1?
I was a safe bet. So my number 1, it's a little bit of a cheat because it's my number 1 movie of the year too. It's from 9 Days. I'm calling it A Day at the Beach. And
I like it.
I haven't seen this one.
Okay. So the setup of 9 Days is that Winston Duke plays a man in a sort of pre-life where souls come and can be chosen to go to the real world. Kind of.
This is like a Pixar movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're getting to it. It's kind of like that, except it's more about morality and ethics and what the meaning of life is in this little tiny house in the middle of the desert. So there's this very, very minimalistic production design to the whole film. And that kind of transfers over into Winston Duke's character, who's got a secret about his past. He was once alive, and he kind of hides all that from everybody, what he did and why he was, disappointed in the life that he had. But you see it come out in a couple of scenes when he's trying to give these souls who could or could not have a moment, have an entire life before them, an actual taste of what life could be like. And so for one character, he sets up, it's the first time that they do this gimmick. He sets up this whole elaborate staging to make it seem like he's actually on the beach for a day. And the scene just, it really, the whole film kind of speaks to you on this deeper level without really diving into like it's not on the nose about it. It's more about feeling it through these characters and their experiences and the discussions they have and everything. And this scene just makes the idea of life so tactile and so precious and so fleeting, and also the artifice of it. And you get an idea of what Winston Duke's character was all about in his life through it. It's just this great scene. There's a few other scenes that are like that. And then there's the big climactic scene at the very end where all of that comes out. And those are other great scenes. But I picked The Day at the Beach from 9 Days as my best scene of the year because it says so much about what the film is doing and how it's doing it. That's the important thing. This sort of minimalistic, realistic view of what it would be like to experience this sort of pre-life and what life means to various people and by extension to us.
How did I miss this movie, man? I love Winston Duke. I love
he's fantastic in this.
He's, I think, still somewhat underrated. Like when you look at Us and oh man, I'm having a brain fart on the actress who played the lead in Us.
Why am I too? Oh no, because I'm thinking of this. Oh God.
Oh, hang on, I'm just gonna look it up.
Lupita
Nyong'o.
How do you say it?
Yeah, it was Lupita.
Lupita Nyong'o.
Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o from Us. Everybody kind of gives her the credit, and rightfully so. But Winston Duke also plays two characters very, very well. Yes, he's kind of a mute in one of the characters and a goofy dad in the other. But he's great, dude. I just think he's somewhat of a unsung hero right now. So I don't know how I missed this one, Mark.
Yeah, definitely catch up with this. And he's fantastic in it. It's a very, very subtle, quiet, internalized performance.
This is great. Another one. I mean, you're talking about how we missed it. It came out earlier in the year. I did go and watch it, but I wish it got a bigger awards push. Here at the end, it seems like it just got buried at the end of the year.
It did get buried, and I don't know why. I think part of it is I think it played Sundance like the year before, and so I think a couple of people kind of who saw it at Sundance that prior year might have gotten confused, that's coming out now, and it didn't get even the marketing push, because I think a lot of critics even just sort of I guess that came out, go see it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great film, obviously.
No doubt. I mean, I saw it, just went to the theater to see it, because I don't even remember if I missed the press screening or what it was. But to give you an idea, there was no push, I was like, missed it. All right, I'll go catch this one in the theater. But do check it out, Jawheads. 9 days.
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I know it's available for rent for sure.
Matt, you're number one.
All right. My number one is probably the only one that's somewhat predictable on my list, but I also, when we said we're doing scenes of the year, this is the first one that popped into my head. It is just an eviscerating scene. I rewatched it. I've rewatched it several times since I first saw it, but I rewatched it again today. And yeah, I am correct in thinking that this is one of the best scenes of the year. Certainly one of the most memorable. Nicolas Cage in what I'm calling a word with the chef from the movie Pig. And wow, Nicolas Cage's character looks this guy in the eye and stares straight through him. And you know what? Let's just take a listen to this moment here, Jawheads.
What is the concept here?
We're interested in taking local ingredients native to this region and just deconstructing them, making the familiar feel foreign, thereby giving us an even greater appreciation of food as a whole.
This is the kind of cooking you like?
It's cutting edge. It's very exciting.
Exciting.
I mean, everybody loves it.
You like cooking it?
Absolutely.
Derek, what was it you always used to talk about opening? Wasn't it a pub?
Everyone loves it here. This is a huge success.
Why didn't you open your pub?
I don't know that I really wanted. I mean, that was such a long time ago.
When I fired you, I asked you what you wanted to do. You said you have a few rooms upstairs. A real English pub.
Did I say that?
Yes.
Nobody wants pubs around here. It's just a terrible investment.
What was going to be your signature dish?
Liver Scotch eggs with a honey curry mustard.
They're not real. You get that, right? None of it is real. The critics aren't real. The customers aren't real. Because this isn't real. You aren't real.
Okay.
Derek, why do you care about these people? They don't care about you. None of them. They don't even know you. Because you haven't shown them. Every day you'll wake up and there'll be less of you. You live your life for them and they don't even see you. You don't even see yourself. We don't get a lot of things to really care about.
What a moment this was.
Yeah. I mean, right. Nick Cage just sort of cuts this guy down to the bone, right? Like, that's a good food analogy. He just shaves the meat right off of him and leaves him exposed. And
it's really at that time that I think I teetered with this film. Do I take it seriously or don't I? All the way up actually until that particular moment where I was like, oh, yeah, this is a serious film. Because I think my problem with it earlier, Matt, was I mentioned, and we even talked about how it has some relation to John Wick, not in the sense of like action, but the hidden world, so on and so forth. And there's this odd scene where he goes in like the basement of a restaurant and he starts boxing people. I never understood it at all. I didn't know what was going on. And it led to that moment in this restaurant where all of a sudden he has this conversation that's like, oh my God, this is like a real monologue from Nick Cage. Like, sit up in your chair and take note. This guy is giving a masterclass in acting, and everything about it is perfect. Were you a fan of this one, Mark?
Yeah, I like this one. And yeah, that scene is just, he fillets his soul to continue with the cooking stuff. Yeah, that's a great scene. And a movie that is really weird and also very thoughtful and touching. Surprisingly, it came out of nowhere. I enjoy that one. And Nick Cage is great in it.
Good pick, Matt.
Yeah.
Is Nick Cage back, you guys? Is he back?
He's never been gone.
He's never been gone. He's just been
That's
doing
what you
stuff
say. That's not true. 5 years ago?
Matt, you just had him in your number one a couple years ago.
Yeah, this is true.
Right, but Mandy, that's not a movie that like Brad Pitt would have done, right?
But either is Pig. Pig still, I know we're celebrating it here on Cinemajaw and the critics, but the vast majority of people still have not seen Pig. It's still a very, very small movie. I mean, most people have not probably heard of it, much less seen the movie.
Right. I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying. Is he back? Because next year we get the massive weight of, or the crushing weight of massive talent, or whatever it's called. He's stepping back up to the A list, I think. I could be wrong.
We all love Nick Cage.
Well, I mean, paying back taxes is a pain in the ass. So I mean, when you do that, you take whatever you can get, and sometimes it's not good. So yeah, that's the problem. But now I think he might be able to be a bit more selective in what he can do. So
my number one is, as I mentioned at the top, a favorite closing scene of a movie, and it comes from my number one film of the year. I don't know where Mark sits on this one at all. I forget, looking at his letterbox, exactly where he rated this one. But it is Titan is my number one movie of the year. And it is the closing. Part of this going on the journey of this movie, and I talked about it when we did our top 10 with Tellerico, going on the journey of this film is part of the joy of it. It's wild, it's crazy, and it hits a point, it crescendos, if you will, to a moment of cinematic bliss. It's a moment that is so crazy that you're still involved in the fact that this person is giving birth to a child that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. The music is playing, the acting's phenomenal. You're sort of grossed out, but you're emotionally moved. I like to think of it as, let's say this. You know when you go on a roller coaster and they take a picture of you when you're going down the big slope and they get you when you're scared, or that facial reaction? I would have loved a camera in my screening room when I was watching the ending of Titan to see exactly what my face was registering, because what I remember of it best was shock. I think my jaw was probably dropped. My hand was over it, but I had tears coming out of my eye also because I was emotionally moved by the moment. That very seldom happens, where I can be horrified, emotionally moved, shocked, all in one instance, and it happened at the end of Titan. Mark, I haven't talked to you about this movie. I know it's a wild one, and we're not going to go into full discussion of it because you can talk about this movie for hours, but were you a fan or weren't you of Titan?
I was not a fan, and I know I offended you deeply on that one. No, I was not a fan of it.
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
It's cool. It's like the Annette,
hey, everybody's
syndrome. It's okay.
Everybody's wrong every once in a while. Yeah.
I know.
Yep. But yes, Titan, the ending of it, jawheads, enjoy this movie. All right, that was my number one. Matt hasn't seen this one yet, so no comment from Matt.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions. I told you I wrote some down throughout the year. I'm going to go bullet very fast. Here we go.
Go ahead.
Right off the top, when I'm looking at it, of all the ones I wrote down, the first four were already mentioned by you guys. How about there's a few classic moments in Summer of Soul. It opens with Stevie Wonder, which is absolutely incredible performance. But you also have some musical numbers in there in Summer of Soul that are knock your socks off. Last Night in Soho, what I'm calling the reflection scene, and this is the first time that Thomasin McKenzie goes out and constantly sees the reflection when she goes to the bar. I thought that entire sequence of moving the camera around and switching the two girls was quite incredible. Finch, the Tom Hanks robot movie.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I mentioned how much I loved the moment when he actually created the robot, Jeff, and talking to him. Only Hanks could pull that off. It was literally incredible. Venus Williams walking out of the locker room in King Richard with the braids. Speaking of King Richard, the kitchen scene between the father and the mother of Serena and Venus Williams.
Two wonderful moments from a wonderful film. Yeah, absolutely.
Both those scenes are literally incredible.
Yep.
And I don't know how you guys feel about I mean, I talked about one of these, The Power of the Dog, literally magnificent with the ending. And I don't want to get too much into it because it's spoiler territory if you haven't seen it. But I mentioned that there's so many emotions going on in one particular scene. Sexual tension. You're sort of thrilled and wondering where the film is going to go and finally conclude. Love the way that movie ended. And last but not least, I did like DiCaprio's freakout scene in Don't Look Up when he is on the newscast and he finally had enough. I'm calling it his I'm mad as hell moment. I went for it. I like that moment. Any honorables for you?
I got a couple. Just a couple. I mean, Phil mentioned the amazing save of MJ. I'm going to say the pregnancy to birth in the movie Old from M. Night Shyamalan. It was a fun sort of return to form from him. And then I will say that the naked run in Sean Baker's Red Rocket.
That's great.
I mean, that's something that's going to stick with you for a while. So that's all I got. Any honorables, Mark?
Yeah. The bye scene in Red Rocket, that's on my list of honorable mentions. 3 great scenes in Drive My Car, Talk in the Back Seat, Rehearsal in the Park, and the play at the end. The Christmas Game in The Green Knight.
Great one.
Yeah. The haunting truth at the end of Identifying Features. Lakeith Stanfield has a shudder in Judas and the Black Messiah that sent chills through my spine, where he kind of just realizes like the guilt and the weight of everything that he's about to do. Just great moment of physical acting. That was one of them. The fatal farce at the end of a film called Silent Night. It's a British comedy about the end of the world. That's fantastic.
With Keira Knightley.
Yes.
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, that's on my top 10 too. That was my number 10 of the year. It's the little one that got away from people, but it's really good. And the cauldron in Tragedy of Macbeth. The floor turns into a cauldron for the fire double toil and trouble sequence.
Man, the cinematography in that movie was literally incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
One other great one, I know we've all seen this one, The French Dispatch.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson. I love the Jeffrey Wright scene.
Jeffrey Wright's
probably my favorite. It's so
I'm not a
great.
fan of the movie. Jeffrey Wright is great.
I mean, there's some moments in there where it's like, yes, this is clearly working. I don't think that the whole film works as much, even though it did make your top 10, Matt.
It was my my number 10 for sure. I liked it.
Jawheads, if we missed your favorite scene of 2021, you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet. We're at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us. We're feedback@cinemajaw.com. We like to end all of our podcasts with a fun trivia game, and in honor of 2021, a year that saw many sequels, we're playing sequel movie trivia of 2021.
All right.
Mark, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt K go first. There are steals, and if you get caught up on any question, you get one rescue. Rescue me, Ryan. They start off easy, Mark. What do you want to do?
I'm going to kick off. I will have Matt receive.
Okay.
Wow. This changes everything. I swear to God. Here we go. Question 1. Matt, they start off easy. I said, Venom got a sequel in 2021. Who played Carnage?
Woody Harrelson.
There we go. 1-0. Mark is kicking himself for kicking off.
Yeah, this is a bad idea.
Question 2, over to Mark. Chris Rock appeared in a sequel in 2021. Name it.
See, I think this is where seeing 500 movies is to your detriment.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a problem. Oh, God. Could it possibly have been...
I do want to mention, too, just so to clarify, sequel, it doesn't always have to be the number 2 in a series. You guys get it. It's just
okay.
You know,
I don't know if that helps. I don't know if you're giving me a little hint there or not. Oh, God, everyone was in it. Was he in Coming to America?
That is incorrect. Matt, you got a chance for a steal and to blow this thing wide open.
Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Oh, God. Oh!
That is correct.
Mark is kicking himself now.
Oh, that embargo killed me, apparently. I'm not allowed to reveal anything about the movie or remember it, I guess.
Wow. 2-0, Matt K. I didn't see it going this way. Question 3, Matt, over to you.
Okay.
Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, and John Krasinski appeared in this 2021 sequel.
Why did I do this?
I mean, it's A Quiet Place too.
That is correct. 3-0, Matt K. You got a big hill to climb here, Mark. Here we go.
I'm going to go for a 2-point conversion here.
Question 4 is over to Mark. Netflix gave us a horror movie and its 2 sequels all in the same year, 1 week apart from each other. What was the name of the series?
Fear Street.
That is correct. He is on the board with Fear Street. It is 3-1. Matt K in the lead. Question 5 is over to him.
That should have been worth 3 points, though, because it was 3 movies.
This is true. I like this. I like the thinking.
Matt, Salma Hayek, Antonio Banderas, and Ryan Reynolds appeared in a sequel. Name the movie's title. And we need an exact answer.
Ryan Reynolds, Antonio Banderas. In a sequel. 2021 sequel?
That is what we're playing. 2021 sequel, believe it or not. Let me have a drink of beer.
This is where I am drawing a blank. I have no idea. I can't even name.
Mark looks really happy that he's crawling right back into this ball game.
What did Antonio Banderas and Ryan Reynolds even do together this year? Desperado 3.
Oh, I wish.
That is incorrect.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see that.
Mark, you got a chance for a steal here. What do we got?
The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
Oh, yeah.
That is correct.
If I'm not mistaken, was it either that or Free Guy that we did Ryan Reynolds month after? But I'm pretty sure it was this movie is why we did that. We spent a whole month talking about this movie.
That was in like February. I mean,
All right, it's 3-2, and question 6 is over to Mark. He can tie it up here. Mark, director Nina DaCosta followed up her first feature film, Little Woods, with this highly anticipated horror sequel.
Candyman, 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 Candyman.
Wow, he went for it.
You better watch out behind you.
Yeah, I know. You let me know if you see anything behind me here.
I'll let you know.
Okay. We got a good ball game here. 2 questions left. We're all tied up. Matt, question 7 is over to you. Speaking of horror, Michael Chavis took over for James Wan to give us this 3rd horror installment. We need a full name of the movie.
Oh, okay. Jesus, man. I mean, obviously it's the one with the Warrens. It's in the Conjuring universe.
Full name of the movie.
Full name of the movie. Boy, I've never wanted to open up my notebook more. Oh. Trying to think of what happens in the movie. Give me a second on this one. Come on, let me think.
We'll give you 1 second. The jawheads are all thinking about it right now as they're listening to this. They're like, boy, that Matt K is an idiot. What does he got here? What does he got?
They're in Connecticut.
Oh, boy. He loves the Connecticut.
I was going to say, that's not going to help you.
Of all the things that you could pull out about this movie to get the subtitle, Matt.
They go into a secret underground place. There's a witch. She's casting spells. She's taking over people.
Didn't make any of our favorite scenes. But actually, that particular moment was really good when they went to the morgue. I remember that was pretty thrilling.
I like the Warrens as both of them.
All right, doesn't change anything. We need the name of the movie, the full title of the movie. You got 3 seconds.
I got it. The Conjuring, the devil made me do it.
Right.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Holy crap. Can't believe
Unbelievable.
it. Can't believe it.
It is 4-3. It comes down to the last question of the game. Mark, please tie this one up.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
James Earl Jones appeared in one film in 2021, and it happened to be a sequel. Name the movie.
I'll tell you what, it was not. It was not Spiral for the Book of Saw, because it was Coming to America.
That is correct. We have tied it up. Well done.
Oh, my God.
4-4. It comes down to a jawbreaker. This question would have been over to Mark. Mark, better horror sequel, Halloween Kills or Escape Room 2?
Ooh. This is what you think, right?
No.
This is an empirical fact. Yes.
Technically, oh, God.
Yeah. You can already look this up on Wikipedia. It's a fact.
Oh.
But don't.
Wait,
I mean,
wait, I'm going to say Halloween Kills. It's probably wrong.
Absolutely incorrect. It's Escape Room 2. All right, that was a joke. Here we are.
Your tips.
The real jawbreaker is this. Age of Patrick Wilson, who's in the Conjuring movies.
Ooh.
Closest to the age of Patrick Wilson. Matt, you got to guess.
Wait, who? I honestly don't know. Who is Patrick Wilson?
He's the Warren. All right, he's the Warren.
No, he's not.
Matt, you love horror. How do you not know Patrick Wilson?
I just didn't know the actor's name. He's Nighthawk. He's the guy from
Correct.
Yeah, The Watchmen. Let's say he's got to be in his 50s. I'd say 53.
Lock him in at 53. It's a tie game. Mark, lower. What do we got here?
You literally took my exact answer. I was going to say 53 as well. I am going to say
$1, Bob.
Oh, God. I'm going to say 54.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt K is a winner.
He's 53, isn't he?
No, 48.
Nope.
48.
No way.
Wow. He's I think he must be younger than Vera Farmiga then.
He turns 49 in July of next year.
Oh, I should have gone the other way. Oh, well.
Unbelievable. Wow. That was a ball game right there. Can I get a virtual handshake?
Yeah, there you go. Virtual knuckles.
Boom. Fist bump. Boom.
Good times. Brings us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Jaw. We got to thank our guest, Mark Dujsik, for coming on. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's fun as always.
We also got to thank our producer, our engineer, our editor, Fill Me In Phil.
You guys know I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Matt, we should also thank the sponsors.
We should, Ryan. Let's thank the sponsors. Let's thank Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors.
Jawheads, if you want to support this podcast, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And another great way to support us is join us on Patreon. We're doing fun things over there, and it's, a little community building up. Please do it.
No doubt. Absolutely. And last but not least, Phil said it earlier, Happy New Year. We're looking forward to a great 2022 of talking movies, Matt K.
Yes, if nothing else in 2022, come what may, we will be talking about movies. So you have that to look forward to.
Yes, and look forward to it. You will. Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.